All right. So before we get into the podcast, I just want to drop 2 quick ads and pay the bills. My name is Chio Dogu. I run a digital marketing agency based right here in the GTA. We do everything from helping clients launch podcasts, getting entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and speakers booked on podcasts as celebrity guests, creating lead generation campaigns for local businesses using Facebook ads, Instagram ads, LinkedIn ads, and YouTube ads. We also create landing pages and online funnels to help local businesses, entrepreneurs, and big businesses turn clicks into customers. If you're struggling to generate leads and grow your business, hit me up at info@odogwu.com, or you can get on my website at www.odogwu.com. That's www.odogwu.com. I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know what you're thinking. And with that said, let's get on with the show. Hey guys, welcome to another exciting episode of the GTA Business Titans podcast. My guest today is Kevin Dee. Kevin is the founder and chairman of Eagle Professional Resources, Inc. It's a high-altitude staffing company that helps large companies and government organizations fulfill their human capital need. He was a former management consultant with Anderson Consulting when he and his colleagues seized an opportunity to purchase the staffing division of Anderson. They eventually spun it off to become Eagle in 1996. In his 20-year career as the CEO of Eagle, he led the company with a small team of 10 when they first started out and $10 million in revenue to, by the time he retired 20 years later, the company had exceeded revenues over $140 million. He's been named CEO of the year in the past. His company is consistently recognized as one of the best companies to work for in Canada. I'm pleased to have Kevin Dee on the show today to tell us a little bit about his business, his experience, and of course, some words of wisdom for people that want to build thriving businesses in the GTA. So with that said, Kevin, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Chi.
Great.
Happy to be here.
Great. So, Kevin, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mentioned your bio briefly, but I know you're an expat. You're not an expat anymore. You moved many years ago to Canada from Liverpool. So tell us a little bit about your journey as a young man coming to Canada.
Okay. So I left school early at 16 and went in the Royal Navy. So actually I went from Liverpool to the Royal Navy. I was an aircraft mechanic in the Royal Navy. I spent 7 years there, which was a great journey for me, learning a lot and growing up a lot. And when I left the Royal Navy, I had choices whether to stay as an aircraft mechanic or do something different. I went back to school, became a computer programmer. I worked for Barclays Bank for a couple of years as a computer programmer in England, actually just south of Manchester. And I guess 7 years in the Royal Navy gave me a little bit of wanderlust, so I was a little bored with working in the big corporate environment, 9 to 5, and wanted to do something different and explored opportunities, applied for jobs in Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. Got hired in Canada by Manitoba Telephone Systems, which was my gateway to coming to Canada. So that was 1982. I arrived in Canada. Working for Manitoba Tel. That's the brief England to Canada journey.
Yeah. So what was your experience like, moving here, working for Manitoba Tel, and then eventually ending up in Anderson before we get to the Eagle story?
Sure. I think anybody who immigrates to Canada goes through various stages. You have to, even though England and Canada are very similar, there are plenty of differences, and so it takes time to settle. You've moved away from family and friends, so that takes time to reestablish yourself in a new place. So it was the first couple of years, I think, were a bit dodgy in terms of getting settled down, that kind of stuff. But it didn't take too long to recognize that here in Canada, I think the opportunities were far greater for me than back in England. So here, I think the feeling is that you can do whatever you set your mind to. If you want to do something, you can go for it, and there's not the only barrier is yourself, really.
Yeah.
In England, the feeling was a little less than that. I think it still is today, a little bit of a class hangover. There are barriers to growing beyond your station, if you like, in England that just don't exist here in Canada. And that was empowering. That was good.
Awesome stuff. So you find yourself working for Anderson Consulting, and what was your career trajectory like? Because I know you were a systems integrator at one point, and then you were asked to lead the staffing division, correct?
Yeah, kind of. I was in sales with Anderson. So Anderson had a subsidiary here called Synologic. So I was the sales manager for Synologic to start with. Then we all got integrated into the Anderson Consulting model. So my primary role was the pursuit of large projects for Anderson Consulting. So the managing partner came along one day and said, "Kevin, I got a new role for you." We'd had a reorganization here, and it resulted in a division being formed, which was all of the independent contractors that were on Anderson Consulting jobs. And he told me that I was going to lead this division, which I wasn't all that keen on, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And then he made it clear that this wasn't really a request. This was my new role. So I started. And what was the most interesting about it was that I all of a sudden had gone from, a sales management type of role to running what was basically a business within a business.
Yes.
And so I ran that division for about 2 years before we split away. But Anderson made the decision that the division was not core to what they did as a company. So they wanted it to go away, and I offered to buy it, and they gave me that opportunity. So that was the genesis of it. And when we started, there were 10 of us who came over from Anderson, we'd all been working together in that division, and that was the start of Eagle. So we basically bought the assets of that division, the contracts, basically, is what we got.
Okay. So it sounds to me like you ended up in this field almost by accident, like most people end up in their fields. But what I want to know is, what did you spot early on? You only spent 2 years there before you decided to buy the assets and spin the company off. So what did you see that made you say, hey, maybe guys, let's look at this and let's take it private on our own, and then let's make a go of this by ourselves? What was the opportunity there for you?
Well, I think that the opportunity for me was that I saw the value that the independent contractor model brings to companies. Okay. So, and through that, to the Canadian economy, if you like, or any economy where they allow independent contractors. So it's a very flexible, powerful workforce that can go where the need is, and that was cool. The demand was there and growing. We were entering a phase of skill shortages. Everybody's written about the baby boom bubble and the fact that the boomers are all retiring, and we're in the middle of that right now. But 20 years ago, that was approaching, and that was an opportunity. I knew the finances of the division. We were making money. It was I was running it already within, so there were a lot of things I didn't have to worry about as a part of Anderson Consulting that all of a sudden changed when we formed our own company. Yeah. But still, the day-to-day operations were the same. We had clients. We had to find the talent that they needed when they needed it at the price they needed it. So that was really the same kind of model back then as it is today.
And now, looking at that model, the value of the independent contractor model, I want to juxtapose that with what's currently happening with the rise of the gig economy. Skipping forward now for a little bit, is the gig economy a threat to Eagle's business model? Because it seems like they're almost in parallel position.
The gig economy is the Eagle model.
Okay.
we've been doing this for years.
Okay.
It's existed for years, but what's happened is the technology has come along.
Yeah.
And technology all the way through since we've been in business 20 years, there's been evolutions in the technology, and every new evolution, people think it might be the end of the middleman, which is basically what we are. The reality is, so far, has been that the tools have been used by the middlemen to make us more efficient, more cost competitive, and more capable of meeting the needs of our clients. And our clients are they're banks or they're oil companies or they're government departments. They're not staffing companies.
Yeah.
And so they do a lot of their own of that. Like, everybody tries to do everything themselves, but when you need things, professionals, then that's what we do. That's our core business.
Okay.
So it's not a business that's going to go away. It's changing a lot with technology.
Yeah.
Certainly in the gig economy, we focus on professionals. A big part of our industry is focused on blue collar workers or temporary help, administrative staff, that kind of stuff. That model is changing much more than the professional model is. Because if you want somebody who's capable of coming in, lifting and shifting some boxes, one person is exactly the same as the next person. If they can shift the box, they're good. In the professional world, it's not quite like that. In technology, if you want a full stack developer, one full stack developer is not the same as the next. You need people with industry expertise. You need people with specific technology expertise. So it's not as simple to replace that middleman capability, if you like, with even with artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
So it's going to take a long time before that makes a huge dent in what we do. So I'm very excited about our industry.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like you guys kind of skate to where the puck is. You find candidates even with the expertise, even before your client says, "Hey, I need a guy that has A, B, and C skill set and is specialized in this particular industry." Is that a fair assessment?
Somewhat.
Okay.
I think that we have over 20 odd years we've built a database of 400,000 people in Canada who are technology people that 20 years ago might have just been starting out in their careers, and today they're the CIOs and the senior people out there. So we've got this 20-year history with this database of people, and what we do is we have the ability to do deep dives on that today, understand where the technology skills are that are going to be in demand. But we're really a just-in-time service, if you like. Okay. Clients come to us when they need people. They need them now. They don't need them, 3 months from now.
Okay.
So we need to be kind of on the ball in terms of where they are, and then get out and find them if we need to.
Okay. So now let's talk a little bit about building the business from getting clients. I know you started off your career as a salesman in the industry, but tell us a little bit more about I know you don't actively lead day to day, you're the chairman now, but when you were building the business, what were some of your best methods of getting clients for your business? Because your industry is quite competitive. There are a lot of staffing agencies out there, and also the margins tend to be smaller, maybe around 10 to 15% if my research is correct. So how were you able to consistently get larger and larger clients and help them meet their needs?
I think a couple of things. First of all, we needed a strategy that said, what are we going to be? So in the staffing world, we have competitors who will service the biggest clients, which we tend to do. We have competitors who service kind of mid-range clients, which offers different challenges. And you have some that will service more the kind of startup type of clients. And each requires a slightly different approach, requires a different capability, and results in different kinds of margins. So if you're servicing that smaller companies, there's less demand coming from a small company, but they tend to get higher margins. So we chose to go after the big clients. It was a conscious choice. We knew it would be more cost competitive. So in order to be cost competitive, we needed to be as efficient as we could possibly be, so that we could keep our costs in line with those kind of margins. So the first thing is a strategy. You need to have a strategy. What kind of clients do you want to go after? And then once you have that strategy to go after big clients, you need credibility. So, we were lucky we had credibility because we had existing clients when we started the company, some quite big ones. And so that helps you. So you're able to parlay that into other larger clients based upon your wins that you can demonstrate. A lot of these clients, well, certainly all of them today, to get in to be a supplier to them, there's almost always an RFP process. So you've got to have the right story to tell. You've got to be able to meet all of the needs that they determine in their proposals. But typically, if a cold proposal comes in and a cold RFP comes in, then your chances of success are low. So you need to have knowledge of the account, an understanding of what their needs are going to be before they actually hit the street. You need to have relationships that are going to go to bat for you internally, those kind of things. So you need a whole strategy, pursuit strategy, if you like, for going after large clients. So some of the ways that we had success were we would have clients who would move from one company to another. So they already knew us. They could open the door for us. They could give us an opportunity. We'd have a chance to prove our capability, and then you can build on that and grow in that way. That's always been one way to add new clients. We focus in specific industries. So if we're in the banking industry, for instance, and if we're successful in one bank, then that's a great story to go to another bank with, to say, this is some success we've had here. And that helps you to get in those guys. Early on, because we came from a system integration background, so when we started the company, like I say, I came from Anderson Consulting, which today is called Accenture. And my wife came from IBM. Yes. So that was kind of our background. We knew the system integration space, those big consulting companies. And so we went after those guys because they have huge projects that they win. And if you look at the model that most of these guys use, there's a very high percentage on any project that are independent contractors. So if we could become a supplier to those guys, they have big demand. So, skinny margins, but big demand, and that was part of our strategy as well.
Now, you just mentioned. Oh, were you going to say something? Okay,
no, that's good.
You just mentioned your wife, and I remember from some of the research I did about you that your wife and you were kind of working in the same field at the time. And and so sometimes you were actually going after the same project. So talk a little bit about those early days where you guys were on opposite sides of the same deal, but at the same time you'd have to come home and there's a Chinese wall. You can't say, "Hey, honey, this was what happened in my day," because she's working on the opposite side trying to get the deal also.
That was absolutely right. And I often say to people, my wife and I have worked now together in this company now for 21 years, and she's the CEO today here. People say, "How can you work together?" I said, "Well, try working in competition and you realize working together is much better." So when Janice was at IBM, she was the director of system integration in Ottawa. And I was with Anderson Consulting in sales. So yes, every large deal that the federal government had, IBM would be going after and Accenture would be going after. So Anderson Consulting would be going after. So it was always the case that, we come home and, "What did you do today, dear?" "Can't tell you." So it was interesting. It created some friction too, because there were people who would, if IBM lost a deal, there'd be people making sly suggestions that
Yes.
maybe Janice had passed information over or something. It was uncomfortable. It was silly, but it was uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, like I say, working together it's way easier than working in competition.
So what are some of the advantages of working together with your spouse for so many years and then eventually, handing over the mantle of leadership to her and taking more of an advisory role in the business?
So I think in the early days, one of the things I always said was, I came from pretty humble background. I'm not. I don't think I have all the answers to life's big problems, but we've had success. So I very often would look in the mirror and say, am I still the right guy? Have I still got that drive, that passion? Have I still got new ideas? Am I still the right guy to be doing this? And I always said that if the time came that I didn't think I was the right guy anymore, or I thought somebody else could do a better job, then I should get out the way. So after 20 years, I think I felt like we were getting a bit stale.
Okay.
And a little bit of a shake-up was needed. And Janice had been COO for many years anyway. So I think, and also, she's got the MBA and she's done the ICDD Directors College at Rotman, and she's the brains of the family. So it seemed to make sense. And so, but it didn't mean I was retiring. The idea was to change my role to be less day to day. So for the last 2 years, I've been very focused on where is our industry going? Yeah. What is the future of the staff nurse? What is happening in technology that affects a huge amount of stuff going on in technology affecting our industry? And how do we best harness that as Eagle to get better and better and better? So those are some of the things I've been involved with. I spent some of my time on coaching activities with sales team and with our executive team. I still am a little bit active in the industry association. I was on the national board of one of the industry associations for 11 years and on the other one for 5 years. And so I still get involved and help out there whenever I can. So that's kind of my time is spent more on those things than on the day-to-day operations. I think the benefit of Janice running the company, like it's pretty cool. After 20 years, we can go home and just not talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, and then there's other times when we do talk about it and we know it all so intimately that it's an easy conversation.
Yes.
If Janice wants to bounce ideas off me, that's okay. If I think it's getting too much, then I tell her. So it works. It's good. When the kids were still home, what was interesting, we'd sit at the kitchen table and obviously we'd talk a little too much about business and they'd let us know. So, so that was always good. Mom, Dad, enough. Let's talk about something else. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. But that's kind of the way it's played out, and it's worked out well.
Very nice.
And of course, we have similar values and similar outlook on life. So, you want the culture of your company to stay whole, even if you're changing what you do in it. So,
yes,
our culture was still very focused on a culture that is Eagle's culture, one that is focused on making it a great place to work and a great place for our clients and a great place for the candidates that we work with.
So now, speaking about culture, you've mentioned, like I mentioned earlier, Eagle has been featured on the list of great places to work in Canada for many years. I think it's over 10 years when I last looked. So tell us a little bit about how you guys build the culture into such a place where, employees want to work there and clients want to work with you guys, because you guys have a phenomenal culture and it shows in the marketplace in terms of your reputation with your peers as well as, your competitors.
I think it goes back to the Andersen Consulting days. I think Andersen is now essentially, and they're one of the world's great consulting companies. And I think one of the things that I learned there early is that the core values. Core values are not just something you write up on a wall. Core values are what you use to determine the culture of the company you're going to build.
Yeah.
So if you do that first, if one of your first tasks when building a company is to determine what kind of company you really want, it makes decision making easier. Mm-hmm. So if you look at our vision is to be the number one professional staffing company of choice, number one for our clients, for our candidates, and for our employees. So whenever we have a management meeting, so we have quarterly strategic planning sessions where we're discussing, where we're going and what we're doing and how we can get to that next level. But every decision we make is guided by that vision. Is this decision going to make things better for our employees, for our clients, or for our candidates? If it's not, why are we doing it? Right, and then our core values. We have 4 core values, and it's the same thing. It's like, are we being true to our values with these decisions that we make? So you can't make decisions to do something that's outside of that, and integrity is one of those, for instance. So if I always say to people, integrity, every company in the world says, we have integrity. And I always say, well, integrity is great until it's going to cost you $1. That's when you know if you have integrity. So I think we know what it means, and we still believe it should be a core value, whether it costs us $1 or not. Mm-hmm. It's who we want to be. So those, and team from the beginning, we wanted a team-based atmosphere, one where our employees support each other, help each other, and have a common goal of success, not just I'm looking after myself. And, that helps and shows too. So we try to create, compensation structures that support that, try to create our processes that support that. And, we drive it home with the team all the time about the importance of team. And if, you look after your buddy, he's going to look after you.
Yes.
And it's good. It works. And people feel it. People know this isn't just one more commission-based environment where everybody makes the best money they can make, and whether it's at the expense of somebody else or not. Not that there's anything wrong. We have commission too, but it's just it's geared in such a way that we know, we're helping each other. Yes. And we'll all do better.
Awesome stuff. So as we start to transition towards the end of the show, this middle section is basically, finding out some advice from you in terms of helping a business owner in the GTA grow their business. So my first question for this segment is, a business owner that is facing some challenging periods in terms of making sales, getting clients through the door, what are some of your best advice for them to build their business, given that you've built your business significantly over the years? So someone struggling in this area and needs to start, bringing in more clients and making more sales, what would you advise that person to start doing?
I'd say the first thing I would say is get yourself a peer group to share your challenges with. So when I started Eagle, there's lots of them out there. There's, YPO and Tech and Young Presidents. There's the EO. There's a whole bunch of these groups for people who run companies. Okay. And you join them, and you spend time with peers who have the same challenges that you do. What I did when I started Eagle was I started my own group. I phoned up 2 people. So I'd run this division for Anderson Consulting for 2 years, but I'd never run a company. So I phoned 2 guys who I knew who ran small companies and said, how about we form a little group? And I said, can you phone some people you know? And we we started out with about 10 people who all ran small companies, and we get together on a monthly basis. And over a few years, that grew. There were about 30 people in that group by the time we finished. And to get together every month, we'd do it at somebody's boardroom, bring in some beer and some pizza, and we talk about our challenges. Every company has the same challenges, whether you are in staffing or with your bank or your oil company. I don't care what you are. You have the same challenges, people challenges, money challenges, strategy challenges, market challenges, sales challenges. They're all the same. So it was really cool to be able to talk to somebody from a totally different industry and see how they did stuff. And you go, oh, geez, that's a good idea. And it was very powerful. So that would be my first advice to anybody. Often you can find a mentor. You have to be careful with mentors because, I've had mixed success with mentors. Yeah. So you have to find the right people, and there's a process to that. But I think a good mentor can be invaluable. You can also have advisory groups. So if you want to grow and you have some key clients, then will people from those key clients be advisors to you, just to help you get to the next level.
Yeah.
And they don't have to be formal. They can be very informal. They don't even have to be paid, because some people are often happy to go out and have a few beers and offer advice, and even on a regular basis. So I think you can do lots of things formally. You can do things informally.
Okay. And the next question for this segment is, what were some of the resources and advantages of growing your business in the GTA? So what were some tools you relied on to help you grow your business specifically in this region?
A good one. I think the GTA is our largest market and always has been our largest market. And the biggest thing for us was the fact that it's the home of the most head offices in Canada.
Okay.
And the types of services that we supply are to head office. So, the IT shops of big banks are here. The IT shops of large insurance companies are kind of here or Montreal. So you know where your target market is, and this was the biggest target market. So being here offered great advantage. It's also home to 6 million people, so it's the largest source of talent for our clients too. So those are good things. It's challenging from a commuter perspective, which can cause problems, as you can guess, right? If you live in Mississauga, you probably don't want to go on contract in Scarborough, but it's it's okay. I mean, you can handle those kinds of things. Yeah. There are a ton of resources here too, of course, from the Chamber of Commerce and organizations like that. Depending upon what your business is, there are many of those kinds of groups. And within the different municipalities, Mississauga, Oakville, they all have their own kind of little groups that can help business development in those organizations. I think industry associations are also hugely helpful. I mean, you're sitting down with your competitors, so people think, well, why is that going to help me to grow my business? But when you sit down with your competitors, the staffing industry's biggest challenge is not really each other. Our biggest challenge is a regulatory change from government or those kinds of issues.
Yeah.
So when we sit together, we talk about those kind of issues. How do we educate politicians, for instance, about the impact of the changes that they bring in? Bill 148 would be a recent case. I mean, we didn't have much impact on it coming in. We were able to get our messages across, and there was felt that they weren't strong enough to stop it moving forward. You get the chance to do it as a group, as opposed to individually. You just don't get that kind of opportunity.
Okay, great stuff. And now this is the final third of the show, where I ask you personally about some of your favorite things to do in the GTA. So could you tell us, first of all, what are your favorite things to do? I know you have an awesome bike. So, so tell us a few of your favorite things to do and some of your favorite restaurants and hotspots.
Sure. I mean, so motorbiking. I like my motorbike. I like to go cruising. I actually am part of a group of CEOs who ride motorcycles, but they're from all over the country, all over North America, actually. And we go off on rides. Our next one is the first Canadian one. We're going to go from Vancouver to Calgary in August. So it's going to be a 5-day trip with lots of little side rides to keep us interested. But for that, we do 5 days. We do a half day of business, and then 4 to 5 hours of riding in the afternoon, and then an evening of socializing and networking. And again, it's the same thing of that peer group knowledge sharing. So that's great. But here in the GTA, I used to love the King West restaurants. I haven't been out there since the new King Street changes. That's bad, isn't it? But it's true. It kind of affected me. It's kind of we don't do that as much as we used to. We'll go and grab pizza from True on King Street. We'll get gelato from the gelato store on the corner of Jarvis and Adelaide. We'll do those kinds of things. We like to go to which other restaurants? B&O on the corner of Yonge and Wellington. It's hard to say. We also have a place up in Barrie, which we spend our weekends at, and that was a big surprise to us. We hadn't realized how nice Barrie was, and Barrie has probably 7 or 8 nice restaurants as well. We just hadn't anticipated that. It's kind of great. So we spend time up there on Lake Simcoe, and we go to restaurants up there too on the weekends. Riding wise, I do more riding up there than I do in the city, but I kind of like to just get on my bike and tool around the city and go to all the different neighborhoods. There's so many different neighborhoods. My kids live in the beaches, and we go down there and spend time with them. It's just a fabulous neighborhood as well. So I don't know if I'm as good a tour guide as maybe you'd expected, but
no, but at least that helps. I've only been in the GTA for 4 months now, so I know that at least I check out the King Street restaurant, and also Lake Simcoe is on my list of places to go check out.
Oh, good. Yeah, you should do it. It's actually on the go now. Like you can get the GO train from Union Station right up to Barrie. Okay. And it's cool. It's a nice place. They have beautiful beaches this summer. It's quite thriving. There's something going on every weekend with festivals and things like that. Same as Toronto, it's just there's so much to do in and around the different neighborhoods. Yeah.
Cool. And before I let you go, I think my second to the last question is going to be, for young people that are just coming out of school, or whether it's college or grad school, and they're trying to get into their first career, do you have any advice for those people?
Well, so much. It's a big question, but I think the easiest advice I can give to people is to be a little bit humble. get in and prove yourself. You're not going to come and change the world right away, which I've seen a lot of, that kind of, expectation. I think I always feel that getting a job with a big company is one easier way to get started in a career. Most, like the banks and insurance companies and organizations like that, have great training. They invest in new people. It's a great, you can see a career path ahead of you, and it helps you to settle into what you really want to do with your life. Some people come out from school and don't really have a clear idea of what they want and where they want to go. Others have reasonable expectations. But it's all about, I think, understanding what you want from your career and then putting a plan in place to get it. And so once, having a few experiences can help you understand better, do I want to work in a smaller company environment or a big company environment? Do I want to be the boss, or do I want to be just a great resource at what I do?
Yeah.
Is my focus on, material things, or is it on other stuff?
Awesome. And my last question for you before I let you go is, looking back on your career thus far, you've come a long way from the young lad in Liverpool to where you are as chairman of a company with over $140 million in revenue year over year. Is there anything you could have done differently to help yourself, if you could go back in time to do it, or to advise yourself?
I think there probably is, but what I always think is I'm the product of all of the experiences that I've had, good and bad.
Okay.
And I kind of like who I am, and I think it's important to like who you are. I think if you like who you are, then life is good. It doesn't get much better than that. People ask me, is there one thing that you would have said has been the biggest contributor to your success? And I usually say to them, time management. It's been a bugbear of mine forever. I think that if you can be the most productive you can be with the time you have, then that's going to get you ahead in almost any career. And that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to work. If I'm putting in 8 hours a day and I work 8 hours, very focused, I'm going to be successful. And that leaves the rest of my time to do the other things I want to do. Yeah. I mean, for years, I played soccer. I only gave up soccer 5 years ago, but that was, I played competitive level soccer. I like to ride my motorbike. There's things I like to do in my spare time. And as, the founder of a company, you don't always have a ton of spare time. So you find ways to fit it into your life. So I think time management would be something I would advise anybody and everybody to focus in on.
Awesome. And with that said, Kevin, we've reached the end of the show. I really want to thank you for spending the past 45 minutes sharing your words of wisdom. But before I let you go, where can people find you, get to know more about you? I know you blog a lot on your company's blog, and you're very active on Twitter, which is how we met. So tell us a little bit more where people can meet you, reach out to you, and connect with you if they want to learn more about you, they want to learn more about Eagle, and of course, if they want to ask you for advice or work with you.
For sure. So the eagleonline.com is our Eagle website, and we have profiles for our executive up there with our contact information. So my email is there. I'm on LinkedIn. It's Kevin Dee. My email is k.dee@eagleonline.com. I do spend time helping people out. It's one of the things I like to do. It's not something that what I say to people, though, if they want my help, they have to be willing to help themselves. Yes. So don't phone me and say, hey, what do I got to do to make my life better? You can, but I'm happy if somebody comes with specific questions, or people really want to know and can articulate what it is that they're trying to get to, then I'm willing to help.
Yes. Awesome. And I'll make sure I'll put a link to all that in the show notes once this episode goes live. So Kevin, my friend, thanks a lot for coming to share your story and to share your words of wisdom. I truly appreciate it. And I know all the GTA Titans out there truly appreciate learning more from an elder statesman like you who has gone before them and blazed the trail in the staffing industry.
Thanks, G.
That's it, people. Another fantastic episode of the GTA Business Titans podcast. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast today and got some great info out of it, don't be stingy. Share with a friend and leave a review on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, or wherever you're listening to this podcast right now. Also, if you need any help with your online marketing needs, feel free to reach out to me at www.odogwu.com. That's www.odogwu.com. Or you can email me on info@odogwu.com. Or you just hit me up on this GTA Business Titles podcast website and I'll be sure to respond to you. We help local businesses get more leads and sales from the internet using tools like Facebook advertising, Instagram ads, landing pages, website creation, online funnels, and so much more. So if you want to turn clicks into customers, there's only one name to call in the GTA, and that's Chiodogwu at www.odogwu.com. Till next time, guys. Be a Titan, be great, make something great happen in your life today. Bye.